Welcome back to the deep dive. And before we even get started today, and trust me, you are going to want to hear this, you need to be seated for this one. Do me a huge favor, hit that like button and make sure you are subscribed.
Yeah, definitely do that. We are growing this community of critical thinkers, and we really need you in here, what we're about to unpack.
Yeah.
Because today is heavy.
It is. It is heavy, it's distinct, and honestly, it's fascinating.
Distinct is a very polite way to put it. It's controversial, and frankly, if you want to understand the history of our institutions before they were captured by feminists and Marxists, it's necessary reading. We are looking at a text today that describes itself not just as a cultural critique, but as a literal warfighting manual.
Exactly. We are diving into a brand new, explosive, ultra-long, and really incisive ebook. It's titled Enjoy the Untergang, and bear with me, the subtitle is Long Western Civilization Falls as Men Are Shot to Pieces by Feminizing Ideologies of Marxism, Postmodernism, Feminism, and Satanism.
Quite the title.
Right. It is written by Conrad Riker, and let me tell you, explosive might be an understatement. Just looking at that title, you know exactly what kind of ride we are in for.
Riker isn't pulling any punches here. He isn't interested in being polite to the establishment. The premise is stark. He argues that the collapse of the West, what he calls the Untergang, isn't an accident.
It's not just bad luck.
Right, it's not economic cycles. He claims it's an engineered demolition. And the target isn't freedom or democracy in the abstract. According to the book, the target is men, specifically masculine agency.
And look, if you want to understand the full scope of this argument, and we're going to cover a lot today, but we can't cover everything because this book is massive.
Yeah.
You need to go to Amazon Kindle or Google Play Books right now and buy it.
Highly recommend it.
Riker calls it the most dangerous book you will ever read because it is designed to shatter the illusions we live under. So seriously, check it out. But for now, let's get into the mission of this deep dive. What are we actually looking at here?
The mission is to trace the network. Riker argues that we often look at things like feminism or Marxism or postmodernism as separate academic movements.
Right, like, oh, that's just a college campus thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But his thesis is that they are actually interlocking weapons in a single arsenal. They share one goal, which is the inversion of natural hierarchies and the destruction of what he calls the free man. So we're going to look at his concept of the gynocentric trap, the capture of our schools, the rewriting of history, and finally, his solution, the return of the hero.
So let's start with the diagnosis. Riker names the demons right out of the gate. He talks about the satanic inversion. Now, for the listener, let's unpack that, because he's not just talking about guys in robes chanting in a basement.
No, it's not a theological argument in the traditional sense.
Right.
It's a crucial distinction. When Riker uses the term satanic, he's using it philosophically, structurally. He's talking about an inversion of reality. In this framework, satanic means a system where weakness is celebrated as strength, and strength is pathologized as evil.
So it's a world where the natural order is flipped upside down, where up is down, silence is violence, but actual violence is somehow free speech.
Precisely. It's the celebration of the victim and the demonization of the competent. And central to this inversion, according to the book, is the gynocentric trap. Riker defines gynocentrism as the worship of female desire above all else, above truth, logic, and certainly above male well-being.
And he brings receipts for this. One of the most fascinating examples he uses is what he calls the sperm bank paradox. I loved this part because it cuts through so much of the social noise we hear every day.
It really does. The paradox he points out is this. Socially and politically, the narrative is that women want men who are emotionally available, softer, less toxic.
Right. We are told constantly the old man is obsolete and the new man should be sensitive and quiet.
But when you look at the data from sperm banks, where women have total choice with zero social pressure to perform virtue, what do they actually buy?
They aren't buying the sensitive poet who talks about his feelings for 3 hours.
No.
They buy the chads.
Effectively, yes. They select for superior genetics. Tall, athletic, intelligent, successful, high testosterone markers. One donor mentioned in the book fathered 250 children because his profile was in such high demand.
Wow.
Riker's point is there's a massive conflict between the ideology, which says gender doesn't matter and men should be soft, and biological reality, which craves competence and strength.
It's the difference between what people say they want online to get likes and what they actually choose when the chips are down. Riker has this line that really stuck with me. He says feminism isn't about liberation. He says it's about liberating women from accountability while enslaving men to endless obligation.
That is the absolute core of the gynocentric trap. The idea that men must continue to provide, protect, and sacrifice, which is the traditional male burden, but they no longer have any authority or respect.
Responsibility without authority, which
Right.
is just a recipe for misery.
Exactly. And this starts young. That's the scary part. It's not just happening in divorce courts, it's happening in kindergarten.
Oh, the education section was infuriating. He talks about the war on boys in schools. There was this specific story he pulled about a kindergarten boy in Portland. He got suspended for harming emotional safety.
Because he said a classmate's drawing of a rainbow looked like a pile of noodles.
A pile of noodles. He's 5. That is literally just an observation of reality from a 5-year-old's perspective.
But in the framework Riker describes, honesty from a boy is interpreted as aggression. Meanwhile, he notes a girl in the same class kicked a kid, which is actual physical violence, and was sent to a peace circle for restorative justice.
It illustrates the double standard perfectly.
It does. Boys are pathologized just for being boys. Their natural energy is treated as a defect.
And the stats back it up in the book. He mentions that boys labeled aggressive are 3 times more likely to be medicated than girls who behave the exact same way.
We are essentially drugging the boyhood out of them because they can't sit still for 7 hours in a classroom designed by women for women.
Riker calls it the education catastrophe. And it's not just behavior, it's the curriculum itself. He uses this term, canonicide. The Church of Woke, as he calls it, is systematically removing Western classics. Shakespeare, Homer, Milton, they're being pulled from shelves.
Because they're dead white men. That's the excuse given.
Right.
But Riker argues the real reason is that they depict archetypal masculinity. Achilles, Odysseus, King Lear. These are men who struggled with honor and duty and war. If you want to remodel men into something soft and pliable, you have to hide the blueprints of what men used to be.
You have to destroy the history of male greatness so they don't know what they're missing, and they're being replaced by gender theory. Riker points to the Moo cartoon cow example. This is a cartoon used to teach very young children about gender fluidity. The argument he makes is that this is intentional indoctrination to sever children from biological reality before they can even read.
It's tearing down the heroes like Achilles and replacing them with confused cows. It's essentially saying there's no such thing as a man, there's only a feeling.
And then once these boys grow up, if they haven't been drugged into submission in school, the medical industry comes for them as adults. We have to talk about the body betrayed chapter.
This is where he critiques the medicalization of masculinity. He talks about the rise of TRT, testosterone replacement therapy. Now, on the surface, helping men with low testosterone sounds good. We know testosterone levels have been plummeting for decades.
Right, but Riker argues that the solution being offered is a trap.
Exactly. He argues that these clinics profit from the neutering of men. Instead of addressing the lifestyle factors like the lack of purpose, the plastics in the food, the sedentary life, the demonization of aggression, they just sell a subscription to a hormone.
It turns masculinity into a product you rent from a pharmaceutical company. It's wild. Here's your monthly subscription to manhood.
It creates a disposability of the male body. You are only as good as your next injection. And that disposability flows right into the corporate world. Riker calls it the corporate coup. This is where the rubber meets the road for a lot of guys listening.
This is where we get into DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Or, as Riker frames it, competence is oppression. This goes back to understanding how our institutions used to function before they were captured.
That's the satanic inversion again. In a sane economic model, the way things used to be, you hire the best pilot, the best surgeon, the best engineer. You want the bridge to stay up. You want the plane to land.
Right. Merit.
But under what he calls inversion economics, hiring based on merit is seen as discriminatory.
Yeah.
So you hire based on identity.
He gives that terrifying example of the FDA. They approved a drug not because it was the most effective, but because the development team had a better emotional climate.
Right. And internal documents showed higher complication rates for the drug. But the ideology trumped the science. Riker also touches on the decline in standards for pilots and soldiers. When you lower the bar to meet diversity quotas, planes fall out of the sky.
It's systemic failure engineered by ideology. We are trading civilization-sustaining competence for the warm, fuzzy feeling of equity.
And if you think you can just opt out, get married, and raise a family away from all this, well, Riker has some bad news about the legal system. He calls family court a feminist tribunal.
This is the betrayal cascade. This is one of the darkest parts of the book, and for any man listening who has been through it, it's going to hit closer home. Riker describes how the state incentivizes the destruction of the father. The statistic he cites is that 80% of primary custody decisions go to mothers.
80%. That's not a coin flip.
No, it's a rigged game. That is a statistical impossibility if the courts were actually neutral.
And it's not just custody. It's the silver bullet technique he talks about, claiming abuse to gain leverage in court. Riker argues the system is designed to believe women by default and view men as suspects. A man can lose his children, his assets, and his reputation without a single shred of hard evidence against him. Guilty until proven innocent, but only for men. He talks about how this creates dependency. The state replaces the father. The mother gets the check from the government, which is enforced by the state taking the father's money, and the father becomes a visitor in his own children's lives.
It's the state breaking the family to increase its own power. And Riker connects this present moment to the past. This isn't the first time a civilization has eaten itself. We have to look at the historical parallels. He draws a direct line to the fall of Rome.
The red pill of history.
Yeah.
This section was fascinating. He talks about the Battle of Adrianople.
Yes. This was a pivotal moment where the Roman army was crushed by the Visigoths. But Riker's analysis isn't about tactics or formations. He says Rome didn't lose because they lacked weapons. They lost because they relied on mercenaries.
The Roman men, the actual citizens, had stopped caring.
Exactly. Why defend a civilization that mocks you? Why fight for an empire that taxes you to death, debases your culture, and replaces your gods? It sounds incredibly familiar. We're seeing recruitment numbers for the military tanking right now in the West. Young men who have historically been the backbone of the combat arms are just saying, no thanks.
Riker also brings up the Cleopatra model of power.
Rising through access, right?
Yes. The idea that in a declining empire, power isn't gained through merit or building things, it's gained through access to powerful men, and then subverting that power. He points to figures like Elagabalus, a Roman emperor who became a symbol of gender confusion and decadence right as the empire was starting to crack.
Riker says we have Elagabaluses everywhere in our leadership today.
We do.
But why don't we see this more clearly? Why does it feel like this is happening in the background? Riker argues the media matrix enforces the narrative that keeps men asleep.
It's the suppression of information. He points to the domestic violence statistics. This one shocked me. The CDC's own data shows millions of male victims of domestic violence. Some stats putting it at nearly parity with women in terms of frequency of physical aggression. Yet turn on the TV.
He cites the 5 million male victims statistic. You never see that on the news. If you watch the news, you think it only goes one way.
And the silence is a weapon. It maintains the illusion that men are always villains and women are always victims. And when the media does focus on men, it's to destroy them. The Covington Catholic incident is the prime example Riker uses.
Oh, yeah.
Those boys were standing there smiling while being shouted at by adults. But the media weaponized a 15-second clip to try and ruin their lives. Riker argues it was a calculated hit job on young Christian men to signal to everyone else to submit or be destroyed.
Okay, so let's recap the landscape Riker paints here. We have a captured education system that drugs boys, a captured legal system that steals their children, a captured corporate world that punishes competence, and a media that lies about it all.
It paints a pretty bleak picture.
It sounds like game over. But Riker claims this book is a survival guide, so let's unpack the solution. What is the path of the free man?
Riker is very clear. The solution is not political reform. You can't vote your way out of this because the institutions are already captured. The rot is too deep. The solution he proposes is stoicism as counterinsurgency.
I love that phrasing, counterinsurgency. It implies you are operating behind enemy lines.
Because in his view, you are. He references Navy SEALs and special ops guys who use Marcus Aurelius as a field manual. They don't read Stoicism to be passive or to accept their fate like a doormat. They use it for mental armor.
Right.
It's about controlling your internal state so you cannot be manipulated by shame, guilt, or fear, which are the primary weapons of the ideologies we discussed.
It's about refusing to accept the premise. When they say check your privilege, you don't apologize. You don't feel guilty.
Exactly. You become the remnant. The remnant are the men who refuse to be the hollow man. The hollow man is the guy who apologizes for being a man, the guy who accepts the toxic masculinity label just to keep his job or keep the peace. The remnant builds parallel systems. They reject the lies.
And this leads to what he calls economic defiance. This is real practical advice. He talks about the trend of tradesmen over corporate.
This is huge. Riker argues that the corporate world is now completely dominated by HR departments and DEI mandates that make it hostile to masculine competence. You are walking on eggshells.
So the move is to leave.
Go where your hands and your results matter. Be a plumber, an electrician, a builder, a coder who runs his own shop. Regain autonomy. You can't be canceled by an HR department if you run your own business fixing things that people desperately need.
It's about walking away from the game that is rigged against you. If the casino cheats, stop playing at the casino.
Exactly. Riker's core message for the free man is to return to the trivium. Logic, grammar, rhetoric. Learn how to think, how to speak, and how to spot a lie. Because if you can think clearly, you can't be indoctrinated. You become immune to the virus.
So, to summarize the book's core message, the West is falling. It's being dismantled by a network of feminizing ideologies, Marxism, postmodernism, feminism, Satanism. But it can be reborn. And that rebirth happens one man at a time. It happens when you refuse to lie, when you refuse to be a victim, and when you refuse to apologize for your nature.
And that leads to a very provocative thought for the listener to take away today. Riker poses this challenge. If the system is designed to fail, so it can be rebuilt in an ideological image, are you the fuel for that fire?
That's a great question.
Are you staying in the burning building, paying taxes to the people who hate you, and nodding along to lies just to stay comfortable? Or are you the one walking away to build something real?
Are you the fuel or are you the builder? Look, we barely scratched the surface of what is in this book. Riker goes deep into history, philosophy, and biology. We didn't even get to touch on the specific hormonal science he breaks down. If you want the full download, you need to read it. Go to Amazon Kindle, go to Google Play Books, and buy Enjoy the Untergang. Support this work.
It's a dense, intense read, but if you want to understand the mechanics of what is happening to men in the West right now, it is essential. It's the handbook for the age we are entering.
And make sure you are following the author. He's at Conrad N. Riker on Substack, Twitter, and YouTube. He's putting out red pill truths that you are just not going to find in the mainstream media.
Definitely worth a follow.
All right, that's it for this deep dive. Like I said at the top, hit that subscribe button. We are going to keep bringing you the insights that matter. Stay sharp, stay critical, and we'll see you on the next one.
Stay dangerous.